Okay. Pretty simple video real quick today. Um, Seen this list floating around a little bit amongst some of the popular streamers. This list in particular is Gabriel and Cease list of Sultai Snow. So I just want to give it a shot, run it through a league, and see how I like it. It seems like it sort of fits my playstyle. I like these sort of blue Jace decks with plenty of counter magic in the snow theme. So it's a good draw. Reasonable, at least. Grab Triome here. And then here, I'm just going to go ahead and play out Field of Ruin and play an Uro. Let's go. Ranger Captain. It's kind of interesting. Having a Death Shadow. Looks like we're playing as Esper Death Shadow. Our opponent really hasn't done much to lead me to that conclusion up until this point, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab probably just a breeding pool. I'll shock that in and we'll just push the Ranger. His ability to sort of cut us off of counter magic in certain spots can be awkward at times, so I just want to take it off the table while I can. Here we can play the Mystic Sanctuary and put the Fatal Push on top. I don't really mind that too much. We'll go ahead and do that. This gives us the access to Factor Fictioning and then pushing a Death Shadow after that. Factor Fiction also puts a lot of fuel in the graveyard for the Uro. In response here, I'm going to Factor Fiction. If they have a Stubborn Denial, they can fetch Shock and then Stubborn Denial my Factor Fiction, and I would rather play around that if possible. They can still double stub this, which is fine. Like if they want to trade 2 cards for my Factor Fiction, you know, that's minimum what this card is drawing anyways, so exchanging it for 2 cards is pretty fine, pretty okay by me. This might be an Archmage's Charm, what they're going for here. Force of Negation. It's also reasonable. So here now we can draw this Fatal Push. Just Fatal Push the Shadow. We'll do this during our main phase, because it forces them to use a Force of Negation if they want to save it. And I think I'll just say go here. If our opponent doesn't really do much, we can Field the Ruin on end of turn and then play an Ice Fang Quaddle. If we absolutely need to, we can snap Fatal Push. That's a Death Shadow. Which Ice Fang Quaddle is still fairly good against. I think I'm just gonna get rid of a Watery Grave. We'll just try and slim down their blue and black sources. Though it's not particularly relevant. Their opponent has a lot of mana in play. Just play out our Quaddle. Our Quaddle. Third Uro is not really what I wanted to see, but it's not the worst. Just play out an Arkham's Astrolabe. See what we find. Second Fatal Push is good. That means we have 2 ways of interacting with this Death Shadow. Fatal Push the Ice Fang is fine. I'm gonna go ahead and go for Snap Fatal Push here. Stubborn Denial. Do it again. And worst case scenario, like this, you know, gets Stubborn Denialed again and we have to take 7 from the shadow there, but I guess the opponent didn't have it. Maybe they're just lining up for a second main phase play where they play Ranger Captain into Death Shadow, but I believe, yeah, we've gone through 2 Death Shadows so far. Go ahead and put this guy back into play. And I don't want to attack. I had considered something there just simply because if we attack, we can put them to 5 and then the Uro is lethal by itself next turn. So they have to be able to answer this. But if they have a Snapcaster Mage, for example, that's like worst case scenario for us. They go Snapcaster, Fatal Push, they get to block this, and then they have Revolt for the Uro. Ranger Captain is fine. to the third copy of Death Shadow. They have 1 mana left over for a Stubborn Denial, but they're deciding to leave 2 mana up. Just gonna go ahead and crack this and grab Watery Grave tapped. I know that seems a little bit weird because we could go get Mystic Sanctuary with it, but we don't have any cards in the graveyard, so I'm not like super worried about it. Yeah, that's fine. Can't cast non-creature spells this turn. Okay. Go ahead and play out probably just both arrows, honestly. I'll just empty my hand here. Still have the mana up for Abrupt Decay, which is nice. I'm gonna go ahead and attack for them for 2. Difference between an 8/8 Death Shadow and a 6/6 Death Shadow is not major, especially when we have Abrupt Decay to sort of deal with it anyways. And it would seem that once again, Uro is just proving that it is far and above the best creature that you can possibly be playing in just about any format. I'm gonna go ahead and get the attack in for 2. Yeah, they can just conceded, so. Cards we want in this matchup. Archmage's Charm is neat because it acts as a removal spell and can just take the Death Shadow. Like, it's kind of a removal spell because you can just target a Death Shadow, and then if your life total is above 20, then it just dies. So, a neat feature of this card. Sometimes it can be a major threat, though, if you're low on life. Abrupt Decay is pretty huge in this kind of a matchup. Being able to, destroy stuff uncounterably. It's pretty great. Veil of Summer is awesome. Counters their Thought Seizes, counters their Stubborn Denials, things of that nature. So we're definitely bringing those in. Aside from that, however, most of these cards are just kind of whatever. Archmage's Charm is like the one consideration. Dead of Winter is not super great against massive creatures, so I don't think we'll be doing that. Kind of want the spot removals, and I actually don't know if Esper plays Snapcaster Mages, so I don't know how potent Cling to Dust is. Force of Negation's kind of whatever. Bring in Assassin's Trophy, which has another way to sort of deal with over a Force of Negation. And we'll do Archmage's Charm over another Force of Negation. I think the forces are just kind of really not too great. Not really what you want to be doing in this matchup. The one spot where they would be exceptional is like against specifically like a Liliana or something like that. Some kind of 3-mana Planeswalker that they were trying to land to sort of outvalue me. That's a one spot where a Force of Negation could be quite good for them. Real awkward that we don't have any Arkham's Astrolabes and we don't have any black sources, so I am going to mulligan this hand. We will be keeping this one and putting really just a sanctuary on bottom. Opponent mulligans to 5. It's probably going to be a turn 1 Thoughtseize. Yep. A little awkward to have the Veil on the draw here. Not that it would have made much difference with this hand on the play because our green land comes into play tapped on turn 1. Gonna go ahead and play the snow-covered island out here to give myself an opportunity to potentially curve out into an Archmage's Charm on turn 3. I don't think it really matters whether or not I yield through the end step or not, but I'll go ahead and turn it off just in case. Narset is quite good. Narset's very good against Uro specifically. Don't really want to play my 3 mana, gain 3 life. Yeah, that's all it does, actually. 3 mana, gain 3 life at this current juncture. Found an Unearth and a Thought Scour. Opponent has officially unmulliganed themselves and put a permanent into play that is quite problematic. That's a ranger boy. Into a Death Shadow. Yeah, I mean, if they play out the Death Shadow here, we're gonna be pretty A-okay with that. There was a minor consideration for whether or not I should Field of Ruin and then Fatal Push, for example, maybe the Ranger instead of the Death Shadow. The only power difference is 1 power right now, because they're only at 9. But the awkward part about that is that if we Field of Ruin one of their lands, we have to go get a Swamp here in order to be able to Fatal Push, because again, we haven't found an Arcum's Astrolabe. And if we find a Swamp, then we can no longer cast the Archmage's Charm. So if, for example, we Fatal Push the Ranger Captain, then the Death Shadow is the only problem, and we could potentially take it with an Archmage's Charm, but we don't have the mana to do that. Death Shadow. When it still has Unearth plus Thought Scour that we know about. Abrupt Decay is a pretty good draw. Thought Scouring themselves. Not only does it give them an opportunity to potentially find a card off the Thought Scour, like there's really not any point to milling us, but it also gives them the potential to find a target for Unearth that's better than Death Shadow. For example, a Ranger Captain would be quite good. Aether Gust my Ice Fang Quattle. So we go get an island here. I think that's what I have to do. I'm gonna go get an island here. And we're gonna turn these into another land with the Field of Ruin. Grab a forest off of this. Yeah. And then we'll Abrupt Decay the Death Shadow. And I'll go ahead and let this resolve, and I'll just put this guy on top. And I do want to Abrupt Decay now, because the one card that they can have post board now that they've shown me the Aether Gust is that they could potentially Aether Gust my Abrupt Decay. I'll go ahead and put this guy on top, yeah. Feel like that card's better than a random draw. Getting hit for 3 is fine. It's possible that I shouldn't be playing Cryptic Commands in this matchup. Maybe the Force Negations are better than the Cryptic Commands. Just for spots like this where they have a spell and I don't have any mana to do anything about it. Snapcaster Unearth is pretty gnarly. So 8, 10, 13. We are dead exactly next turn if we don't do anything. So the question is, do we play around Fatal Push or do we play around Stubborn Denial? Given that I haven't given them any Stubborn Denial targets thus far, I'm going to play around Stubborn Denial rather than Fatal Push. And I'm going to go ahead and Ice Fang Quattle block the Death Shadow. Okay, so should have played around Fatal Push evidently. But we are still in business, apparently. We'll block here. Go to 3. So we can go in your upkeep, tap your team, draw a card, and they get 1 card draw. Or we can Archmage's Charm and take the Death Shadow in their upkeep, and they can't interact with that. and then we have a 10/10 Death Shadow, and they can't attack at all. I think I like that line better. So we'll stop on my opponent's upkeep and take their Death Shadow. Give me that one. Obviously, if they have Fatal Push here, we are dead. So Cryptic Command would have played around Fatal Push, but I think this is the play to win line rather than the play to not lose line. So I think I'm going to attack for 10 and see what they do. If they choose to block with the Snapcaster Mage, I'm just going to play one of my 2 arrows and gain 3 life, and then this is no longer lethal. Arrow's not getting any better, and if I can sort of squeeze out any amount of value out of him, I think that's better than not being able to. I know that does shrink my Death Shadow, but I'm okay with that for now. Second Narset. Misses. It's quite bad for them. And they conceded. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I may have sideboarded improperly by bringing out all of the Force of Negations. Force of Negation is powerful in some spots in that matchup. Obviously against the Planeswalkers it would have been pretty good. But it just feels kind of mediocre in other spots, so that's why I wasn't convinced that it's good enough. But after having drawn the Cryptic Command, I realized that it's probably better than Cryptic Command, at the very least, in some spots. Maybe better than Jace. Jace isn't as good as it has been historically in that matchup, just because they're no longer playing Gurmag Gangler in that version. Yeah, his hand's fine. Mulligans to 5, mulligans to 4. Grab an island. Play my Astrolabe. Looks like green-black rock. Maybe not. Maybe this is... Oh, what is that deck called? I can't remember what the creature's called now. It's like the delve, gain all the keywords guy. Mana Leak was a good find there. I don't think I actually care about the Sylvan Caryatid. It's the, you know, the Delve card that I'm worried more about. Just gonna grab a, we'll grab Triome here. I think I want double green in case we draw an Uro. And we'll just play out a Field of Ruin. We have the 3rd blue source for the Archmage's Charm if absolutely necessary through the Arkham's Astrolabe. Wish I could remember the name of that card. I can't remember the name of it. This is fine. Just clean that up with a Dead of Winter on the next turn. I'm gonna go ahead and field their Blood Crypt. They probably don't play a mountain if I had to guess, but they might. I'll just grab another island. They do still have a red source in the form of Sylvan Caryatid, so that's worth noting. And yeah, we'll Dead of Winter here. Yeah, it's definitely the keyword soup delve creature. And I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me. It's black, and I think 4. Oh, Cavern of Souls is stinky. Demon. Are we casting it here? Yep, that's the one. Soul Flare, that's its name. Well, that's a reason to hold the Dead of Winter. Oh, and it has haste because he Yep, well, Mystic Sanctuary thankfully is going to save us here. And we can Ice Fang Quaddle to immediately put it into our hand. And then recast it. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 with the Ice Fang Quaddle. Immediately top decks a Questing Beast. Wonderful. This is just a beast, so we do have a line to at least play through it through the next turn. I'm gonna play out Field of Ruin. We'll play Jace. We'll bounce this. And then we will Mana Leak it when it attempts to come back down. I'll hold back the Quaddle. There's not really any reason for me to get aggressive with it yet. On a Mold of 4, this is a pretty impressive draw for my opponent. But at this point, I believe we have pretty sufficiently locked up the game. We get to field their Cavern, so they can no longer cast uncounterable demons. And then we can start brainstorming with Jace. I don't really think I need to use these to draw cards. I'll just go ahead and grab a tapped Watery Grave here. We'll put back Jace and Snapcaster Mage, I think. And then we'll start by clinging the Questing Beast. And then at this point, I believe I have enough counter magic to start looking at the top card, and we can just use the Jace to win. Fate Seal you. Yeah. I mean, this is like better than this is fine. I'm just gonna say no, just because they might think they have to fetch anyways. But in any case, we can just counter it with an Archmage's Charm. Yeah, they're just fetching it away anyways. We'll get rid of the Sylvan Caryatid so that if they do draw another Soul Flare, it doesn't have hexproof. No, I'll let you draw a fatty. I don't really. Most of the fatties that they play in this deck are cards that they can't cast anyways, like Zatalpa and like these massive white creatures. Things like that. So I definitely want the Dead of Winter. Their entire game plan is circled around putting a 4/4 threat into play that generally has hexproof and a million other keywords, so Dead of Winter is one of the easy ways to sort of get around hexproof. Indestructible as well. Abrupt Decay and Assassin's Trophy are whatever cards. Abrupt Decay is not super great. Fatal Push also doesn't kill the Soul Flare even when it doesn't have hexproof. They are playing a primarily green and black deck, so Aether Gust could be interesting. But most of their cards are black. Let's see if we can find other cards first. So Ashiok is interesting. It'll eat their graveyard. Archmage's Charm is quite good. Aether Gust. Aether Gust does interact with Veil of Summer, interestingly, which is nice. Liliana's not too great. Cling to Dust was quite good there, just being able to exile like the one giant hexproof thing in their graveyard is pretty a-okay. Also Jace just being able to bounce their Soul Flare if it doesn't have hexproof is nice. Got the Liliana. I don't think I want the Ashioks in this matchup. They're not really searching their deck too much, and this is really just gonna interact as a graveyard exile card, and I think Nihil Spellbomb and just the counter magic is kind of gonna get better anyways. So maybe something like this. Maybe we bring in the one copy of Surgical. We'll we'll run it like this. I think the 3 copies of Dead or Winter are really our home runs. Definitely keeping this hand. Has a turn 1 Force of Negation as well as turn 3 Dead of Winter for 4. Sure. Ether Gust is a good draw there. I had considered, for a brief second there, Force of Negationing the first Traverse the Open Wall, but the question here is, do we want to force this? And I think so. I think this is just like one of their most potent plays that they could potentially be making, so I'm gonna force pitching the Ice Fang Quaddle, just because Ether Gust is a good holdup for next turn. So if they want to do something similar next turn, we have Ether Gust for it. Second Archmage's Charm is a fine draw. We'll Ether Gust this. What are we naming here? Demon? Okay. So we're going for the Soul Flare line. Yep, that card's fine. I think here I'm gonna go ahead and draw 2. I'm gonna grab a Swamp. With one of the Archmage's Charms. There was a minor consideration to just holding that up as a counter spell, and playing out the Ice Fang Quaddle instead, but I think just using my mana there was really what I wanted to do, rather than put the creature in play. I see that, you know, that one could go either way, I suppose. I mean, they're gonna take my Dead of Winter, probably. So I'm just gonna cast this. Actually. Let's counter like this. And then if they have Veil of Summer, I want to force the Veil of Summer. They took the Clothis. And interestingly, I think I might Dead of Winter this Sylvan Caryatid away. Maybe not. No, yeah, I don't want to do that actually. Never mind. I had considered doing that just because the Clothis can't come down if they don't have a red source, but if they have any red land, they get to cast it anyways. And yeah, this is a little unfortunate, but that's fine. Gonna take my Dead of Winter most likely. Take my Fact or Fiction. Okay. Arrow's a good draw there. It's possible that I should have waited a turn on playing Uro out, just because of that reason, because of the Clothis being able to eat it out of the graveyard, but I chose not to. Force of Negation is okay. Eating the Dead of Winter is probably the most correct play that they can make. We can no longer Mystic Sanctuary that card back to the top of our library. I think here, it kind of depends on what they target, but I want to put the Force of Negation back on top, or I'm sorry, the Fact or Fiction back on top of my deck. just so I can regas up a little bit. Yeah, Archmage's Charm is fine. I don't really care about that one. I will go ahead and block. Just force them to use their mana a little bit. Just 3 spells versus 2 lands, like 1000% just taking the spells. Really need to find an Uro or a Jace. Jace would be quite good because it could just bounce the Lotlet Troll. As soon as they start dumping creatures into this, that's when I'm going to be in trouble. Because currently I basically just can't beat the board. The Klothys draining us for 2 every turn, and the Lotlet Troll hitting us for 2 every turn is a clock of 4, which gives us 3 turns. I think I'm okay with this. Yeah, I was like, it's pretty unlikely that they actually find any relevant creatures off of this, given that they can no longer counter. They can no longer play them uncounterably, although I will say giving them another creature when they have this Lotlet Troll in play is a little awkward, now that I think about it. Yeah, I think I'm dead now that I drew the land. I just dump the... Before I concede, I'm gonna surgical one of the cards out of their deck. I suppose I could surgical whatever they Klothys here. I may as well, right? Just to potentially give myself one more draw step. Do I want to take the other Aether Gust out of my deck? Not really, because that is technically an answer to the Lotlet Troll. Just gonna double mana leak this. Bail. Okay. I'll put in the other two Aether Gusts. I think Aether Gust was pretty good there. I'll keep this. I'll grab a Triome on one and then play a Snow-Covered Island, play a nice fine Quaddle. Then we've got double arrow to start grinding away. Sure. Take what you want. Take your pick. It's probably just gonna be the Quaddle. It's the most on-curve thing they can take. Still gonna go ahead and grab a Triome here. But at this point now, I think I'll probably play out the Polluted Delta rather than the Snow-Covered Island. And I'll grab a Breeding Pool with this one probably. Spotlet Troll. Aether Gust is pretty good against the Lotlet Troll. That would have been one spot where, since they tapped out on two, where Fatal Push would have been good in the deck, but I still don't think it's correct to have Fatal Push in post sideboard against this particular matchup. Second Lotlet Troll. I'm gonna let them go to damage, because if they want to like dump a bunch of creatures into one, sure. Traverse for a land. I'm just gonna Aether Gust all Outlet Troll. only have one green mana source, so we can force a negation if they have Veil of Summer. And then at this point, I'm just gonna replay my Uro from the graveyard. Grizzly Salvage. Just found a whole bunch of lands. They didn't put, I don't think they put anything into their hand with that, right? Because, oh no, it puts a land in their hand, right? Puts Verdant Catacombs, yeah. So they found 4 lands and a Gather the Pack. Play out my Snow-Covered Forest. And then they do not currently have any creatures in the graveyard that they can delve away with the Soul Flare that are scary. So I'm like not too worried about it. But if they start dumping some creatures, so like they have to ditch their most scary creature last if they have any at all. Because if they ditch one, then we get to Surgical Extraction one of them if they have multiples, basically. Collective Brutality. Yeah. Sure. Take the Archmage's Charm. Yeah, that's fine. I think I want to hold up Snapcaster plus Archmage's Charm this turn. And then end of turn, I will Surgical Extraction one of their cards out of their graveyard just to get an idea on what's in their hand. And then I'll know whether or not it's safe to play Jace. I'll just use this as like a peek at their hand. Just gonna do this for 0 mana. Grizzly Salvage is fine. They finally found a Soul Flare. And they are casting Traverse, which is also fine. What'd they find? Oh, they found Cavern. Well, in that case, I'm gonna snap Archmage's Charm and just draw some cards. Just gonna make them pick up the Lotleth Troll, and we'll attack them for 8. Aw, man, I don't know why I skipped through that. I definitely wanted to put a land in play. So like worst case scenario for me, they go Lotleth Troll into discard a bunch of relevant creatures and then delving the Soul Flare into play. But they only have 2 cards in their hand that are not Soul Flare. And one of them might just be a second copy of Soul Flare, who knows. Any creature that they discard to the Lotleth Troll, I can immediately exile with the Surgical Extraction. Yeah, they're just playing a 4/4. Oh, it's got hexproof. Okay, so yeah, they had to carry out it in the graveyard that I missed. But like that's fine. It's not gonna save them from anything. Just get to bounce this and then we attack with both. Turn my lights on real quick. I'll keep. Cling to Dust is a fine card to have in the early game. It's not the greatest, but it does cycle. It's like maybe Bant. Oh, Infect. I would have to imagine this matchup's quite good for us. Just gonna grab a Watery Grave and just cling their Windswept Heath out of the graveyard. Yeah, and I'll go ahead and Astrolabe Fatal Push the Glistener Elf. Lighted Agent, yeah. I'm just gonna go ahead and Dead of Winter this. If we'd drawn a land there, it could have been a different turn where we Uro and put an extra land into play, and then we use the fetch land. Well, no, yeah. That doesn't work quite out. We don't have enough islands in play to grab a Mystic Sanctuary and put the Fatal Push on back on top yet. Blighted Agent. Opponent has had 3 creatures so far, which is generally speaking, a pretty dense creature draw from the Infect deck. I'm gonna go ahead and try and land this Jace and just make them pick up Blighted Agent. And then if they want to use a pump spell and attack the Jace next turn, then that's perfectly fine by me. Yeah. I suppose they could still kill the Jace with just the Pendlehaven. But if they want to just attack the Jace instead of attacking me, that's still fine by me. Could be dead here. They go Pendlehaven and they have a +4/+4. Pendlehaven no longer does anything. We have another... Okay. Weird. Said 3 mites, but they didn't Pendlehaven first. Aethergust is pretty A-okay. Abrupt Decay is pretty fine. Dead of Winter is just meh. Archmage's Charm is also kind of meh. What about my main deck can change? Cling to Dust is very not great. Force of Negation is quite good. Ice-Fang Quaddle, Snapcaster Mage, Abrupt Decay, all of these cards. Fatal Push is quite good. Abrupt Decay is reasonable. It's not quite as good as Fatal Push in my opinion. Liliana on the Last Hope is absurd. Cryptic Command could be too expensive. Just bring in a second Abrupt Decay, maybe 2 Aethergusts. We'll do this. I mean, this hand has all of the things that we want it to have. It has perfect mana. In the Astrolabe, we get a redraw here, and we get a redraw next turn for a second land. We got a land, so we're fine. Aethergust is good interaction. Fatal Push is good interaction. And Force of Negation is good 0 mana interaction. Noble Hierarch is fine. It's not the card that I thought they had. I figured it was a Veil of Summer, but Vines of the Vastwood is very similar. Puts Vines on bottom. I'm just gonna jam this Jace and put the Noble Hierarch back in their hand. Try and slow them down as much as possible. Double Noble Hierarch. And with that, I'm pretty happy with... I could take one with the Archmage's Charm and then bounce the other one with Jace, and that's a pretty okay tempo swing as well. Puts another mana permanent in play on my side, and it takes another one off the table for them, but they still just have 5 cards in hand, so I might want to just save the Archmage's Charm. But like, they're so far behind on mana, they only have two lands at play. We're gonna go with this line. I could definitely be convinced that this is incorrect, and that I need to be valuing my counter magic more highly, but we're gonna go with this. It also makes their plays a little bit more awkward because the Waterlogged Grove is constantly dinging them. Blighted Agent is fine. Just gonna grab a Mystic Sanctuary. Oh, for some reason I thought I had more islands in play, but apparently not. Little awkward. Jace is just gonna Brainstorm. Fatal Push is great here. I will just put these cards on top. Here comes Astrolabe. Play an Uro. Put the island in play. Fatal Push the Blighted Agent. And attack for 2. Next turn we can escape the Uro. This hand is quite good. Very, very close to turn 3 Liliana, which is pretty much a game ender by herself. Yeah, both of these two interaction pieces available to play. I think I'm okay with second Blighted Agent. Like, they already have 2 Ink Moth Nexus and Nexi in play, so the density of threats is not the problem here. It's the we could just Dead of Winter, clean up the 2 Blighted Agents. I think I like that. I would have to assume that they have to have a mutagenic growth here or something. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. This is a terrible play for my opponent because now I just get to Field of Ruin the other Ink Moth Nexus when they're tapped out. We'll grab Snow-Covered Swamp, and I'll play out an island, and now we have Mana Leak up for the next play. I was really expecting like some kind of follow-up there, but if they just don't have anything, like they are very much out of this game. Yeah. Concession from the Liliana is not super surprising. What's up next? This is a fine hand. Probably go grab Triome on turn 1. Urza's Power Plant. Yep, this is the one play that I was a little bit afraid of. The question here becomes, do we Force of Negation, pitching one of our only 2 cards that actually do something? I think the answer is yes. And I know it seems a little bit weird to pitch our potential draw 3 there, but I think the mana requirement of it is a little bit too intense at this current point in the game for me to be comfortable with just pitching the Ice Fang Quaddle. This card can potentially draw us into something else, and apparently since we're playing against since we're playing against Eldrazi Tron, the Ice Fang Quaddle is actually quite good. The 97th land is not. We have a Chalice on 1, potentially. Yep. At this point I have to Fatal Push, unfortunately. Even though I don't really want to Fatal Push this creature, it not get any better for me. I guess by playing the Breeding Pool untapped there, I really telegraphed that I don't have much of anything. I didn't play a Snowland, I didn't play, I mean, this is fine. Playing a Thought Not Seer, I suppose. I am just going to cast the Cling to Dust in response. In Paper Magic, your opponent has to remember their Chalice of the Void trigger. Magic Online obviously does it for you, but this being in the graveyard is better than it being in my hand. For a potential Uro, obviously, and if we ever draw like Abrupt Decay, we can potentially take that off the table. The 7th land was definitely not what we wanted there. Yep. We'll go ahead and concede to that one. Yeah. So cards we want, cards we don't. Cling to Dust is basically a do-nothing card. Abrupt Decay is pretty a-okay. Assassin's Trophy is also quite fine against their big creatures. Dead of Winter is absurd in this matchup. Negate and Archmage's Charm are also quite good. What else is fine? Ashiok is okay, but they're not really all in on the search plan, so like I don't think Ashiok's really what we want to be doing. So I think it's just like these 5 cards. And we'll board out Cling to Dust. Jace is great, Cryptic Command. All of these cards are great. Liliana is quite bad. Force of Negation isn't phenomenal. Board out one of those. Mana Leak is just okay. Maybe board out one Fatal Push because they're on a Chalice and we're bringing in a couple other removal spells. Ice Fang Quaddle's great. Bring out one Mana Leak. Do something like this, just some... Negate is kind of like the one awkward one, I guess. Maybe I should consider taking out Negate. Sand's great. Has an arrow. We get to land the arrow. Our opponent has very few ways to take care of it. Have to get one of their planeswalkers down or dismember plus an attack. And we have to be in a position where blocking with arrow is a necessity. Ice Fang Quaddle is obviously a very good draw there. Yep. Go get a forest. Play out my Quaddle. We'll see what they go get. I should have attacked there. Hers is mine. We'll do this in the draw step. Just blow up the power plant. The tower was the one they played first, so you assume that they have multiple towers. Add a Reshaper. See if we can draw an untapped land to also hold up Mana Leak or Ice Fang Quaddle. There we go. Play this out. I'm just gonna get my 1 point in. I think if we play Uro next turn, they're gonna be on the back foot of things rather than them being the aggressor. Dum dum dum. Dum 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 dum. Dum 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 dum. Dum 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 dum. Take 3. Power plant is quite good for them. Ugin, the spirit dragon. Yep, we're gonna mana leak that one. Mana leak the mess out of that boy. Gonna grab a breeding pool here with the second one. Tin mana Ulamog would be quite bad for us, but it's pretty common that they don't play Eldrazi that are quite that large, but we'll see. I will take 3. I'm okay with that. All is dust. Card's not super relevant here. If they tap in correctly, we can actually mana leak it. So yeah, I'm just gonna say go. I could Ice Fang Quaddle in the main phase, see if we had a land to play out, but I think we'll be okay. They're gonna get an attack in with the Worm Coil Engine, which is, you know, not nothing for sure. Okay. I'll let them develop their mana a little bit more. It is a little awkward because it makes my mana leaks a little bit worse, but... Last card we know about in their hand is the All Is Dust. I don't really mind an attack too much here. We're pretty ahead on cards, and as long as we don't die from the attacks, we'll be fine. So I'm just gonna attack first 6 here, and I'm gonna leave the Ice Fang Boquaddle back here. Play to land. They still have an All Is Dust in their hand. They're deciding to go for it. Well, how do we want to counter this? I think Snap Force of Negation is reasonable. We could also go... I think I actually like... We're going to fetch up a Mystic Sanctuary. And just put the Force of Negation on top. Because I'm going to play out an Ice Fang Quaddle anyways this turn. So I think I'd like to use my mana a little bit like this. Just draw the Force of Negation and then force it. This can still counter creatures, things of that nature. Crack Expedition Map. Let's see if they go get anything super crazy. Blast Zone is a unique to utility land. If they were to go get something like... oh, I can't remember the name of that card. There's a colorless land that lets you like draw cards. If you have no cards in hand. Something that Eldrazi used to play every now and again. Go ahead and play out the 3rd copy of Ice Fang Quaddle. Cryptic Command is quite good. I think I just want to attack with all my creatures, and then, I guess I'll leave back 1 Quaddle. No. Maybe. Not entirely sure. I'll leave back 1 Quaddle. No. I assumed this was the play that they were going to make. So this is the play that they made the first time. Which again, I'm like super okay with. I don't really care if they draw cards off this Matter Reshaper. Put it into play. Dang it. Had to try, right? And I'm just gonna say go. Blast Zone. You got it, bud. Reality Smasher. Six, 7, 8, 9. I think I just let this resolve. We know the other card in their hand is a walking, yeah, it was a walking ballista. So I'm gonna just let this resolve. And then if they want to attack, I'm just going to Assassin's Trophy the Wormcoil Engine. Yeah. And trophy the Wormcoil Engine. This turns into 2 like Death Touch creatures or whatever. They actually didn't find a land, so they are only playing 1 basic. I'll take 5. They can play out their Walking Ballista, and I will counter it with something, one of my plethora of counter spells. The question becomes, do we Cryptic, like, pick up Mystic Sanctuary here, or do I just counter with Archmage's Charm? Because next turn we're going to use 3 mana. So I still have Cryptic mana. I think I'm just going to counter with Archmage's Charm. I don't think it really matters much there, but... And now we get to smack with everything. And then Dead of Winter, the board. Play a Jace, and we'll look at the top card of their deck. Yeah, I'll put Reality Smasher on bottom. Looks like they're just feeding the Blast Zone, which is good news for me. Now that we've gotten to untap, I don't think there's much really that they can do. No, you can have another Urza's Mine. Should not have done that in the main phase. Should have waited until I attacked. Oh, you can have an expedition map. I think we sideboarded just fine. I think Abrupt Decay is not so great on the draw. So maybe we board out those and bring these back in. Some of the counter magic, the kind of Mana Leak and Force of Negation. These cards are a little bit better on the draw. I will keep this. We have multiple draw steps at a second land. Opponent mulligans to 5. It's exciting whenever your opponent mulligans to oblivion in game 3. Mulligans to 4. R.I.P. brother. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, there's definitely a world where we just get absolutely decimated here, now that I've said all of these terrible things, wishing that our opponent continues to mulligan. But there is no justice. There is no justice. I think as long as we hit our second land there, we're pretty much guaranteed to curve out in some form or fashion. Second Tron land though. I mean, they could just have like Tron plus some silly threat, right? That's what Tron does. But like their threats are like less silly than regular Tron. Okay. I think it's probably between Fatal Push or Uro that they're taking here. Dead of Winter, interesting. Now that we've drawn a fetch land, I'm like super fine with just leaving the Ice Fang Quaddle back to block. Fine. No, it's a little awkward getting the Triome there because we didn't technically have 3 snow permanents in play, but I mean, we played plenty of snow permanents. I'm not super worried about not hitting there. I'll just attack for 1. Playing out a Jace is like... Yeah, no, I'm just gonna hold up Cryptic for a few turns. If we get to make our 5th land drop, then Uro into Mana Leak is quite good, which potentially gets us our 6th land drop. And they're just cycling Mind Stone. Kind of draw some cards with the Archmage's Charm. And the opponent concedes. All right. I can't blame my opponent for conceding there. They mulliganed to 4. Must have had some pretty inconvenient collection of cards in their first few mulligans. So I just generally I think that matchup's pretty favored for us. They usually just can't beat all of the counter magic and Field of Ruin being able to answer their like 1 Cavern of Souls they usually play. And we didn't even see, I don't think we saw Cavern in any of those 3 games. So like I don't really have to worry about Cavern. Or what, I didn't have to worry about Cavern, rather. And our counter magic and removal suite just paces a lot better against the Eldrazi version of that deck rather than the mono green version. With them big fat Eldrazi boys and planeswalkers all the time. The Force of Negations are better against the Planeswalker heavy build, obviously. Like, just Force of Negation, a Karn, Force of Negation, and Ugin is, you know, something you can do, whereas you can't Force of Negation a Reality Smasher, for example. So it's, you know, worth saying something like that. But in any case, the Uro in the Eldrazi matchup is absurd. Like, it just blocks everything. It's bigger than everything, and it blocks everything, and my opponent even had a Worm Coil in game 2, and like I was just attacking through it. They were just not blocking with the Worm Coil. If they did decide to block, I was going to Assassin's Trophy the Worm Coil, such that I got to keep my Uro around. But as long as they weren't blocking, I didn't really have to do that. This hand's fine. Oh wait, actually though, for some reason I thought one of these was a Watery Grave. This looks like it might be Hardened Scales. I'm not sure. No, it's Tron. It's Tron. Well, this hand suddenly looks a lot better. I'm going, because we get to Field of Ruin them anyways on curve, I'm gonna let them just do all of their land tutoring that they want to, and I'm gonna leave the Force of Negation Archmage's Charm for their threats. Because next turn they'll play out a Tron land, and we'll play out a land. We'll have 2 lands in play. Then the following turn they can play out a third Tron. Well, is that right? Yeah. We may have to Force a Negation something. I don't know. I don't know. Because the next turn they'll play their Urza's Power Plant. The following turn, we get to play Field. Okay, yeah, because next turn we get to play the Field of Ruin and just blow something up, so. Okay. Just gonna grab the Triome. Second Dead of Winter is definitely not what we wanted to draw. Played out second Power Plant. I'm just going to do this in the draw step again. It's technically the more correct play. Are we... Okay. I assumed that they were just going to put a charge count or a fate counter on itself, which is like, it's not the best play in the world. Like, it's fine. Just gonna play out a Scalding Tarn. There are scenarios where you can play out 2 Oblivion Stones, and if you have 2 Oblivion Stones, one of them has a fate counter on it, you can blow up one and leave another one in play, which is fine. Like, putting a fate counter on itself is not nothing. But blowing it up just to blow up the Arkham's Astrolabe seems kind of weird, I'll be honest with you. Sure. And I'll draw some cards. And we will put the charm back on top. I'm gonna play out a Field of Ruin and just discard one of the polluted deltas, I think. Maybe I'll just discard a Dead of Winter, actually. Card doesn't really do much of anything. Just gonna play out a Snow-Covered Island, play out my Jace, and start brainstorming with Jace. Just gonna put back. Just have a ridiculous amount of lands. I was really hoping to find at least one blue card there so I could double counter if necessary. I mean, I'll put back 2 lands, I suppose. They're probably just going to exchange the Oblivion Stone for the Jace this turn. If they play anything relevant, we'll obviously counter it, and then I'll probably be Field of Ruining in my upkeep to prevent myself from drawing. I guess the question is, like, do I care about this? Because I could just Dead of Winter the board, or just bounce it with Jace. But I think I want to be drawing cards with Jace. So all Field of Ruin. Okay, they can just concede from the game. Okay. That's fine by me as well. Ejate. Aether Gust is okay. Rev Decay is fine on the play, but it's not on the draw. Assassin's Trophy is quite good. Ashiok is quite good. Aether Gust is just whatever. So like these are the 4 that I want. Surgical could get them. Like we may as well bring it in because we're probably got plenty of cards that we can bring out. It's like all 8 of these are really not too great in this matchup. Even Mana Leak is not super amazing. I'm bringing these 6 and 2 Aether Gusts, I think. What? I thought it was 6 cards. Didn't we bore out 8? Oh, we bored out an Abrupt Decay too. Well, in that case, I guess I'll bring him Cling to Dust just as a way to sort of manage Emrakul Graveyard. Nah, I'll just bring in a 3rd Aether Gust. They probably have like Thragtusk in their deck and stuff like that post-board. Veil of Summer post-board that we can interact with Aether Gust. Yeah. This hand's not great, but it's fine. It has a Field of Ruin in it, so we at least have something to do. Force of Negation is a very good draw there. If we are forced into a situation where we have to force a negation, I'll probably be pitching Factor Fiction. I think just having double Cryptic Command back to back is going to be pretty effective. If our opponent goes for a Sylvan Scrying, we'll force a negation that. I think I'm okay with Stirrings. Could potentially miss. Of course it doesn't. But it could. You know, the idea is that it could. Sure. This would be a good spot to have an Aether Gust if they went for a Thragtusk. Looks like they might just be cycling Chromatic Star. Could be playing a World Breaker, which would be bad for me. World Breaker is probably like worst case scenario. Best case scenario, they just try and jam Karn. Or like a Wormcoil Engine even. Something mana leagueable. That is the Wormcoil Engine we were hoping for. And we'll just mana leak that. And on the following turn, I'm going to Field of Ruin their Urza's Tower. Normally you don't destroy the tower. Like if you have to pick between one of the three, you don't destroy the tower because if they use these two lands to find the tower, then they would get to play the tower and have 3 more mana. But given that they found the tower off of the Ancient Stirrings, because that was the one that they were missing, that tells me that they don't have another tower in their hand. Another thing worth noting is that in order to find the tower, I mean, it's not that bad of a matchup. I mean, like, all of my black cards do literally nothing, so. We ended that game. The opponent said that that was a bad matchup for them. You know, to some extent, I guess I kind of agree. There's a lot of counter magic in this deck, but like, you know, Tron will do Tron things. You can definitely make that a good matchup for you. Field of Ruin is annoying, but it's not the end of the world. In any case, pretty impressive showing. I do like the Sultai Snow list quite a bit. I think that Uro, Ice Fang Quaddle, like these 2 cards are some of the most absurd cards you can be playing out of the most recent sets that have come out. Arkham's Astrolabe, obviously fixing your mana, is ridiculous. Literally everything this deck is doing, I'm just like 1000% about. It's possibly my favorite deck in Modern right now, so huge fan of this deck, super happy that we got the 5-0, so hope you guys enjoyed the content, and if you did, be sure to follow me on Twitch. We stream here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you can also follow me on my YouTube channel, which this will be uploaded on if you didn't get to catch the whole thing. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.